Hey guys, Johnny Disc Golf back with another off-season interview. This time, I am joined by newly minted Team Dynamic Discs player, Music City Open champion, Mr. Mason Ford. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing well.
It's good to hear, man. Things are all well here in San Francisco. Just so you know, I took down doubles yesterday. I'm pretty proud about it. But the bigger storyline, how's your off-season been, man?
It's been fairly busy between repairs on the RV, and we've had some unfortunate family issues back home that have taken up quite a bit of our time, but um, used our time as well as we can to get better for this upcoming season.
Yeah, how's the weather? You guys are out in Texas, right? Is it practice weather out there or is it like apocalyptic cold?
So we're kind of central South Texas, so the weather never really gets that cold. I mean, mid 30s at worst
All
normally.
right.
Otherwise, the weather, I think today's going to be 75.
Oh, geez. Okay, that's beautiful actually.
Yeah.
Listen, the reason for the season though, you are off of Innova and now onto Team Dynamic Discs. Where's your head at? How are you feeling, heading into the season?
I feel confident. I think some people would look at having to relearn a whole new bag as kind of a burden or
Hmm.
kind of something that can weigh their off season down. But I feel like by kind of building a new bag, I have this new level of confidence in some of my shots that I may be throwing. So I feel like it, in a way, has kind of helped me refocus.
Mm. Yeah, that's something that like think is like a common thread for a lot of the players switching bags. When you're on the pro tour and playing every single week and practicing, it can really start to feel like a job and like you get into the routine. And when you switch bags, it can almost like reinvigorate and like kind of find the fun out in disc golf, experimenting, trying new lines. Have you
Mm-hmm.
felt that way?
For sure. I definitely have.
Um, is there any Is there any disc maybe that like you've found that has maybe opened up a new shot? Like I know you were like throwing coyotes and kind of, fun discs that not a lot of the Innova players were throwing. Is there anything that you've found that you've like, oh wow, I've never really had this before?
Um,
And if not, it's okay.
Not really. Um, I've really been liking the getaway. The getaway,
Ooh.
it's like people who know Innova would say, "Oh, it's like a Thunderbird,"
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really much like a Thunderbird.
Mm-mm.
It's more of like it's way faster. I think it goes so much further than just like a Thunderbird, and I think it has. I don't know. I feel like once you season some of them in, I feel like they're just the perfect fairway driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. Peter McBride was on DD a few years ago, and he would always hand me old getaways like that were too seasoned for him, and they'd be like the perfect flyers for me. Let's back up a little bit though. I want to talk about the timeline of the sponsor change. The year ends. How did you come across? Like, how did you start talking to DD, and when did this whole thing come together?
So it actually happened at the USDGC.
Mm,
Uh, Eric McKay came and introduced himself to me, and then it happened to so be the last round I played with Zach Melton, and that was my first ever time playing with Zach, and I kind of um, got to see, he's like one of the perfect people to say, "Oh, this is a DD player." They're
very
perfect,
true.
going personality, super peppy, just a super positive person, and I feel like that is DD.
Hmm.
And then Eric came and followed, a couple holes each day and kind of just introduced himself to me and was really, really polite and wasn't too forward with everything. And, the last day he's kind of like, hey, well, if you're interested, shoot me an email and we can talk about things. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like he wasn't like, hey, you need to go and do this. He was
Yeah.
kind of opening the door to me. And then seeing the way that Zach was and how positive and outgoing he was, it kind of really had me like, oh yeah, let's see what this is about.
Yeah, you actually kind of hit it on the head perfectly by saying Zach is kind of like that, the ambassador, like the model DD player.
Yeah.
Um, so Why DD specifically though? I have to. I mean, so was they the only people that really addressed you, and then once you started talking, there was no one else, or like did you weigh your options, through the off season?
So, of course, there was Innova, and then DD came to me, and then I also got approached by the Andrew, the MVP team manager,
Ah, yeah.
and we had a phone call or two, and I just got so busy during the off season to where I had already got the offer from DD, and Innova was kind of like, well, we know that you'll make the right decision for you. And MVP was just kind of with everything going on, it's almost like I just got too busy and caught up
Hmm.
in the off season the way it was, and didn't really give them much of a chance, to be honest, just because of just the way everything unfolded. I felt like it was kind of just meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good point too. It feels like there were a few players, yourself, Valerie, Rick, Kona, that were like right on that precipice of changing, and DD seems like they were in the right spot to make it happen for a lot of players. It
Mm-hmm.
was like a combination of good things, really. Um, you guys signed, you and Val specifically, and Ricky, Kona, um, you know, Gavin also signed. Big year for big offseason for DD. A lot
Yeah.
of the marketing budget was put into Ricky and Kona. Obviously, big videos coming out, press conferences. You guys kind of slid in there a little bit under the radar. Um, is that something like? Would you have preferred a big fanfare, fly out to Emporia, do the whole thing? It sounds like you're almost too busy, even if they wanted to do that.
So that's kind of what happened. We were supposed to fly out, and then unfortunately, like I said, we had some family issues that kind of needed our attention. It's one of those
Hmm.
situations to where you need to be here, and even if you're just here spending time with people, it's something that you need to be here for. And so we had originally planned to fly out to Emporia, and I wasn't sure if we were going to do some sort of video or whatnot, but we had it planned to fly out and sign in person and do the whole 9 yards. But
Hmm.
of course, with everything going on, it kind of not everything always goes as planned.
Yeah, no question. I mean, in all things considered, it's all good. You guys will be throwing DD discs. There may be one less video out for it, but all things considered, I think probably the right decision made all around. Let's talk about maybe the new discs in your bag, though. You mentioned the Getaway, super long fairway, really controllable. Are there any other discs that you're like really vibing with now? Have you had enough time to like throw the whole lineup of Trilogy? There's like 100,000 different molds to try.
I definitely haven't gotten to throw everything from the Trilogy lineup, but it's crazy because it's from three manufacturers.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable. There's discs that you've never even heard of.
Hmm.
Um, as for a disc that I'm liking, I'm really liking the Fuse. That's kind of that flippy coyote replacement.
Yeah,
Um, I have an OG Truth, the pre EMAC Truth that I'm really liking.
ooh,
I got my first ace with it the other day.
I saw
Um,
that in your socials.
yeah, I really liking the Vandal too.
That's kind.
It,
Kona said the same thing. It was like easy distance. You don't really have to force it to do much.
I think it's just fun to throw. Just like it's just flippy enough to where you can throw some really cool rollers with it,
Hmm.
but it's just stable enough still where you can get that hyzer flip and like late turn it. I
Mm.
mean, it's just a fun disc to throw. It's just like something that has that perfect stability to where it's not too understable, but it's not too stable. And it's just, I don't know, it's a really fun disc to throw.
Have you been? So I kind of like know your game as kind of like throwing vandals, getaways, a touch game, a lot of flip, hyzer flip to straight shots, very controlled. Um, have you tried any of the particularly new stable plastic like the VIP X or the Opto X and all those good stuff? Because they're I think they're
Mhm.
really trying to make a push towards nice overstable plastic right now.
Yeah. So I'm throwing the Fusion X Maverick. We're talking about
Mm.
Zach earlier.
Hmm.
I have one that's pretty beat in now. So like you said, I kind of have that hyzer flip to like a late fade kind of in it. Um, I have a Lucid X Getaway, and then I have a first run that's that hyzer flip super straight. So I kind of have two
Hmm.
spectrums there. And then I think I have a VIP X Sword.
Ooh, I know Matty O was really loving that as like
Yeah.
a kind of flip control distance driver.
And it's kind of like a perfect complement to a Grace
Okay.
because the Grace can be, straight but pretty flippy towards the end if you get it up to speed. But the Sword holds that line a little bit better.
Mm.
So they're like a perfect complement. And
I,
then I have a hybrid X Defender
oh,
that I've,
okay. For like super long distance mashing shots.
yeah, I like it a lot for forehands actually because it's so flat.
Yep, I used to be a big time defender forehand guy. Admittedly, I mostly just throw what's free and easy to come by. So like once I lose it to a lake, inevitably on the road, I switch to something else. But I definitely know what you mean about the defenders. They're really easy in the hand. Um, you so one of my favorite memories from last year is at Ledgestone. You may or may not have turned in the wrong entranceway with your RV down there. And I went to go get to the course. I'm like, who is this person backing up out of here doing like a 9-point turn? Turns out it was you. And that was your first weekend in the RV. Um,
Uh,
talk about that adventure, getting an RV and driving it around the country for the first time. And what should we expect this year?
so we're getting it wrapped.
Mm.
That's the first big thing. Um, Dynamic Discs and Discraft both agreed to do a half wrap. So
Oh.
craft side's obviously for Alexis, and then me and
Hmm.
Val will have our own side for Dynamic. So that was pretty cool to have both sponsors even willing
Yeah.
to come together and do a half wrap on, an RV. I don't know if that's been done before or not, but that
I was just
was
gonna say, yeah.
both manufacturers be willing to support both of us like that, and it kind of in a way support each other.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, the RV,
Well, what's the make model? What are we rocking? Because RVs come in all shapes and sizes. A little C class, tell the people.
so we're rocking a Class A. It's 32 foot. It's a Thor Wind Sport.
Mmm, fancy.
Honestly, we looked for a long time and we kind of just, like I said, like that perfect timing. It's just, we looked for 6, 7 months and just never really found anything that kind of hit home with us.
Hmm.
And this, it kind of just has enough space. It's just, we actually dolly my car on the back of it so we're not driving the RV everywhere that we go. So that makes it a lot easier when we're in town. Puts a lot
Hmm.
less miles on the RV. It's a lot less wear and tear. So that's really nice to have too.
Yeah, a lot less gas mileage too. It's like
Yeah.
something that the travel lodging thing is something that like seems very simple and easy from the outside, but once you get on the ground floor, like it's incredibly complex. Do you do truck trailer? Do you an RV? RV sounds great, but you park on a little slope and now you're outside like leveling it, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole like network of work to go along with that. Was that something that you were familiar with before jumping into that full time, or did you kind of have to like get thrown into the fire and learn as you go?
So back when I was younger, me and my grandparents used to travel, and we go to this fishing tournament
Mm,
here, or we'd go over here. We'd always have the fifth wheel,
mm,
so leveling it and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a lot different with a full RV, but so it was a little bit new to me yet, but I learned quick. And then we also have the girls as parents with Art and Kate, and they help out a lot, so they've helped us learn and help with this or that. They've been very helpful too.
yeah, just having like sage words of advice even on the road to keep
Mm-hmm.
you grounded and level is probably huge. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your transition from kind of like a local killer and like one of those guys that played some of the regional events, play Waco, play Texas States, do that sort of stuff, into you've really developed into like a legitimate top, I don't know what the rating says, but top 20 guy in the world, top 25, 30 player in the world. And you've won one of the biggest events, on tour. What was what made your decision easy to kind of jump on the road, or was it easy full time and do this as a touring lifestyle?
So I guess 2019 was kind of my first year trying to play disc golf, kind of part time as a job or,
Hmm.
seeing if it could or couldn't work. Um, that's actually when I moved to San Antonio and then had some success. realized, obviously Bradley Williams, Emerson's around, Connor's always around Texas. It seemed like every weekend it was me, Connor, and Brad, or me, Connor, and
Mm-hmm.
Emerson battling for the win at the local B tier, A tier in town. And then I had some good events. So 2020, it was like, okay, let's try to commit to this here. Let's try to go and hit the road. So me and Bradley actually left the Memorial, and that was my first ever Pro Tour event. And I kind of just had a minimal goal. Let's just cash. That's
Mm-hmm.
all we got to do is cash. And then Brad's over here. I'm going to win this, this, that. And I was kind of like, wow, I'm just as good of a player as Brad. I was like, why can't I think that I can't win it too? And, from battling in Texas with Bradley and Connor and Emerson, it was kind of like, well, Brad thinks he can. I know I can. I just have the confidence level that he does,
Mm-hmm.
going into it. So I think I placed like 17th or 18th or
Mm.
something like that. So I kind of surprised myself. And then
Yeah.
going out this year, with COVID happening in 2020, we kind of all got shot down and played whatever we could, wherever we could, and just tried to find somewhere that we could even go out and play. Um, so this year was kind of our big push, me and the girls, um, to go and hit these events and kind of show ourselves, not really even show the world, not even show anybody else. That's not who we were going out to play for. We're going to play for ourselves, and just kind of make the biggest splash that we could this year, and just learn and absorb as much as we could.
I love it. And, and a big splash you did make. It was most of the way through the season, but, you know, just look at Missy Gannon. That's what an end of a season can
Mm-hmm.
do for you. You have two big performances, and all of a sudden you're a player of the year. How you said you went out just to learn, fulfill yourself, make a big splash. How did that first half of the season help you win that big event later down the year?
So I kind of feel like what I did was I was like, okay, this week we're gonna go. This is our main focus right here, and then kind of learn from that experience.
Mm.
And then once we kind of had all those experiences built up, then I had an event like Worlds where I felt like I kind of put everything together.
Yeah.
And I was 2 or 3 strokes back after 4 rounds. Like I had a legitimate shot, my second Worlds I've ever played, to win it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there was even some things from there that I kind of took note of and like, okay, well, this is how we felt, or this is something that we experienced. So this is how we need to handle that situation next time we're there. And I feel like that's what really helped me at the Music City, because I didn't make the same mistakes that I did at Worlds or at some of the other events.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't as if there's two different kinds of wins, right? You can go out and just smoke the field, and you know, I think back to like Ricky Wysocki in like 2016, 2017 era.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big Wysocki Macbeth, and if it was close, Macbeth was probably going to win. If it was, if Ricky was going to win, it was going to be that he was going to win by 6, 7, 8 strokes and just smoke
Yeah.
everyone the whole week. Your win came in a dogfight with Rick, went down to a playoff. You parked the hole. He kind of looked like the rook on tour and threw that putt straight into the lock. Is that specifically kind of what you're talking about, is like staying tough in those moments and not falling, by the wayside?
Yeah, I guess just like staying disciplined. And Val tells me all the time, you need to know what you're capable of, and just being confident in myself and knowing that just because there's pressure doesn't mean I can't make this throw that I've thrown a million times in
Mm-hmm.
practice. And when it all comes down to it, I've practiced the shot so many times in the field, there's no difference in throwing it now.
Yeah. No, 100%. So you take down the national tour, you know, Adam Hammes takes down a national tour. Emerson Keith has been probably on the pro scene a little bit longer than,
Mm-hmm.
yourself and Connor, but Connor takes down a national tour. Do you feel like you're part of that next, like, up and coming, legitimate top tier of the field group?
I'd like to think I am. I mean, for last year being my first year on tour, and like you said, you had so many new winners on the
Mm-hmm.
scene. MPO, FPO. FPO, there could be a new lady winning every single week, and I feel like it's only a matter of time until the sport gets big enough to where it's like golf. Whoever's week it is that week, it's their week.
Mm-hmm.
And the top players are always going to be there when somebody slips up. But, it could be anybody.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I think that's what makes me so excited about the future of the sport is that the depth of the field is just getting bigger and bigger. I think that we're a few years away from people just running away. Like one person whose week it is, they just run away and win by 5. That's how it used to be. It's like, hardly ever a close match. Now it's like, man, Chase Card is in the mix at every event. Yeah. I love it. I want to look forward to next season a little bit before I get you out of here. Do you have any goals, any aspirations? I mean, you took down a big event last year. Are you like gunning for most improved player of the year? Do you have anything in your head?
I think I would just like to be, I can't say, I probably have 5 events where, I'm probably going to go out and pick and say, hey, well, I'm going to try to run at these 5 events through the year and kind of do the same thing, kind of micro focus on these little events or these other elite series where I might not even have a chance. Like Portland Open, definitely not a tournament I see myself winning. So it'll probably just be, let's learn as much as we can from this weekend and then build it up into, whatever weekend I may be picking. But I think I'd just like to have a overall more consistent season. I like to see myself, not really outside the top 20, top 25.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any events just off the top of your head that you might want to focus on? I mean, I can think of a couple that are on my dream win list, but what's yours?
Ledgestone was my first Worlds in 2019, mm-hmm. So I'd really like to make a run at Ledgestone. Idlewild, there's always that random winner.
Yeah,
I could be that guy. The Beaver State Fling would be really cool. I know it's just a silver series, but when I first started getting into disc golf in 2014, 2015, it's kind of always watch, Paul and Ricky and Will Schuster play at the Beaver State Fling. So that's kind of one of the events that I'd like to make a run at. That's all that comes to mind right now.
Yeah. So it almost sounds to me, when I think of goals and like aspirations, I think of them in like 2 different ways, outcome and process goals. It really sounds to me like you're riding the line between both, which is probably healthy, right? You have process goals throughout the year, but there are specific outcome goals that you're really gunning for, a couple events that you specifically want to win. Does that like resonate with you? Do you think along those lines?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like to think like I can't get to the top of the mountain without taking the first step. You know what I mean? So it's like I have to take these steps to prepare myself. Otherwise, I'm never going to be ready for it. Or I could think I'm ready for it and then fall off the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, here's to you climbing the mountain and not missing a step for this whole year, because I can't wait. Really, I mean, between you, Connor, Adam Hammes, all those young guns, people who are just coming out making waves, I can't wait to see what we got for this next season. But that's about all I have for this interview. I wanted to give you a chance to make some shout outs, thank anybody you want. I know there's all sorts of new sponsors for you to thank.
Yeah, first I'd just like to thank everybody who helped support me on the road last year, bought a Tour Series disc or, got apparel from me from, said spots. Like to thank Dynamic Discs for the support this upcoming year. And Lucky Ace, it's our little local disc golf shop here in San Antonio. If you guys are ever in San Antonio, go check that out. And then there's one more I wish I could thank, but that'll be coming soon in February. Okay. Pretty excited about it. It'll be a cool little partnership to be a part of. That's it.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to hear what it is. Everybody make sure to stay locked into your socials. I'm sure you'll be able to see it there. Everybody, that is about all I have for this interview. If you'd like coverage of all things disc golf, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.